first glance, the pictures show a normal home, a laundry basket, food on the counter, and even remnants of a happy holiday.
Breaking news tonight, live, upscale Tampa suburbs. Police race to an exclusive gated community and a beautiful 16-year-old girl sitting at her computer doing homework in her own bedroom, dead. Her little brother, 50 feet away, dead.
A receipt for a $600 gun and bullets, bottles of beer and wine, and several empty prescription pill bottles.
Police say Julie shot her 16-year-old daughter and 13-year-old son in the head.
She says she was pushed to the brink by her mouthy kids.
They saw Schenecker lying on her back porch in her pajamas and robe, covered in blood from her children.
We want to find out what happened yesterday, what happened last night, what happened this morning from you yourself.
Yeah. Are my kids coming in later?
I'm sorry?
Are my kids coming in later?
Big trial starts on Monday. A mom who killed her 2 teenagers will be in court facing murder charges. Her defense? Insanity. And when I first saw her after her arrest, I knew that would be the defense. It was obvious from her appearance. She was shaking uncontrollably with this blank expression on her face. But insanity is not about appearances. And those who may be mentally ill may not necessarily be insane. Why? Because insanity is a legal term, not a medical term. Judges and juries decide insanity, not doctors and psychiatrists.
Julie Schenecker walked into a Hillsborough County courtroom stone-faced.
Appeared to be dried blood on her robe and on her hands.
Investigators who were first to interact with her after the 2011 murders of her kids took to the stand.
She appeared under the influence of something. I couldn't tell you if it was alcohol. We did smell the odor of alcohol.
Schenecker's defense team calling them to the stand to get audio recordings she did with the police the night of the murders thrown out. In it, she admits to being heavily medicated on prescription drugs.
We want to find out what happened yesterday, what happened last night, what happened this morning from you yourself.
Yeah. Are my kids coming in later?
I'm sorry?
Are my kids coming in later?
Well, we'll talk about all that.
It's the first insight we get into Schenecker's state of mind, who, on tape, sounds confused and incoherent. Reasons that the accused murderer's defense wanted thrown out of evidence, arguing that investigators should have noticed that she was too far gone to give her consent. But a Tampa police corporal who had been asked to keep an eye on Schenecker in a holding cell said she seemed fine.
I think I asked her, I go, who are your kids? And that's when she made the comment, I shot him, and I was going to shoot myself, but I fell asleep.
All right, this begins on Monday, and the judge has made a decision that those recordings, the interrogation, is coming in at trial. It was, in fact, permitted. Let's bring in my guests. We've got Darren Kavanoki, Tanya Miller, no cuffs, Mike Brooks, and Jay Hebert joining us from Tampa as well. There he is. Great to see you, Jay.
Good to see you too, Vinny.
All right, let me begin with you. You are in Tampa. We're on the eve of this trial. You know, from all appearances, when we first saw her, you looked at her and you said, you know, she's not with it. And is that going to be enough? How far do they have to go in order to prove to the court, to prove to this jury that she didn't know right from wrong?
Well, and that's the pivotal question. Did she have an appreciation of her acts, and did she understand what was happening? She's got a lengthy medical history, and there are going to be at least 5 experts the defense are going to call. And I believe those experts will try to lay out that defense. But the videotape you're showing now, that's an important piece of this puzzle, but her premeditated acts will be laid out by a very strong prosecution case.
Does this video become part of the evidence in the case, do you think, Jay?
I think the defense attorneys very much want that to be part of it because it was taken as she was removed from the medical wing to the county jail.
Darren Kavanoki, legal insanity, you know, you say those words, and it's rarely do juries come back and say yes. You know, the people who are found legally insane, it's usually the prosecution and defense, their experts all agree. But if they don't agree, it's tough to get a jury to agree.
Yeah, well, and I think people have sort of a misguided notion about how frequently the insanity defense is offered and how frequently it's successful. It is a tiny, tiny fragment of the cases that are in the criminal justice system. There's an enormous difference between somebody being 2 scoops of crazy and somebody being legally insane. To meet that requirement, you really have to be so far gone that you don't appreciate that what you're doing is even wrongful. And by the way, I totally get why the defense wanted those audio recordings out as a violation of Miranda, but I think there's a lot in there that's actually going to prove helpful to them. That request of hers that, are my kids going to be here later? If those jurors believe that she's so far gone that she doesn't even appreciate that her kids are not with us anymore and that she's to blame, that could be an important piece of evidence for the defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tanya, your initial reaction to seeing her the way she was.
Okay, so the prosecutor in me is saying, how was she walking around before she shot her kids? Are her neighbors going to say that they saw her walking around like that the days before leading up to the shooting of her children? Is her husband going to say that, or was she behaving like her normal self? If she was, then this to me looks like putting on. And I'll also note for that interview, I thought that, and I listened to parts of it, not the whole thing, Vinny, but for those critical questions where they're asking her about what she did to her kids, she conveniently does not remember. She blacks out on that part, but she remembers all the things surrounding it. So I don't know how helpful that video is going to be to her when they really start to dig into the facts.
Or were they tremors from her alcohol withdrawal?
That's a good point.
When we come back, we're going to compare the various images of Schoenecker. What can my dream team learn from those photos and the audio tapes that are now going to be allowed in court for the jury to hear?
To find out what happened yesterday, what happened last night, what happened this morning from you yourself.
Yeah. Are my kids coming in later?
I'm sorry?
Are my kids coming in later?